The Earth died not in fire but in ice. It began with the solar dimming subtle at first. Days grew a little shorter. Summers became crisp, then cold. Then came the ash. A volcanic chain reaction in the Pacific Ring of Fire blanketed the atmosphere. Crops failed, oceans receded, the sky turned gray. In less than 5 years, the planet entered its second ice age, and humanity turned against itself in a desperate race to survive. Cities crumbled, nations fractured. Only the strongest outposts remained, scattered pockets of survivors buried beneath the ice, clinging to old technology and dwindling warmth. In the frozen ruins of what was once Alaska, a fortified research compound called Thorn Station stood as one of the last functional bastions of civilization. It was powered by an experimental geothermal core dug deep into the Earth's crust, a fading heartbeat in a frozen corpse. Inside it, 37 survivors lived under strict rations and even stricter rules. Among them was Cale Renner, a former Arctic recon pilot turned supply runner, and known for doing the dangerous routes no one else dared. Scarred and quiet, Cale carried more weight in his silence than most did in speeches. He had once been part of a larger world. He had a wife, a child. But that life was buried, quite literally, beneath the snow and time. He ran alone until she arrived. Dr. Lyra Vostek was an astrophysicist rescued from a downed cryopod recovered in a failed Antarctic evac vessel. She was brilliant, curious, and unaccustomed to the cold brutality of Thorn Station. Unlike the others, she still believed in saving the world. At first, Cale kept his distance, but Lyra wasn't one to accept being ignored. Her questions chipped at his walls. She wanted to know everything: the storm patterns, the power grid, the old sky before it dimmed. She wasn't just curious. She was planning something. Then one night, the station's outer perimeter alarm screamed. Cale was the first to the gate. He saw the shapes moving in the snow, fast, too fast. Human once, maybe. Now twisted by exposure to the deep radiation pockets near the poles. They called them whites, pale, hairless, blind, but hypersensitive to sound and heat. They swarmed in silence. And this night they had found the station. A dozen died in the first attack. Cale fought with brutal precision, dragging survivors back into safety, covering Lyra as she stabilized the wounded. After the emergency lockdown, she turned to him, blood on her face, and asked the question no one else dared. What if we don't just survive? What if we escape? Cale almost laughed, but she wasn't joking. She showed him her work, a partial orbital map, data scraped from old satellites, some still transmitting from above the frozen cloud layer. There was a point near the equator where geothermal activity might have created a warm zone, a pocket of life beneath the frost. Not just a theory, a real place, but we'll never reach it with what we have, Cale said. It's thousands of miles through the dead zone. Not on foot, Lyra replied. But what if we could fly? In the sublevels of the station sat the Valkyrie, an ancient, half-buried atmospheric skimmer originally designed for polar recon. It had no power core, no navigational AI, and hadn't flown in 15 years. But Cale had flown one before, and Lyra had the math to plot a course around the worst of the storms. Against all logic, they started to repair it. It took weeks. Every hour they stole was a risk. Commander Rahl, the station's leader, rejected their plan outright. Leaving means death, he told them. Hope is the most dangerous fuel of all. But some began to listen. A handful of volunteers joined Cale and Lyra. Among them was Juno, a mechanic with nothing left but grit, and Merc, a teenage prodigy who helped reroute power from the geothermal core. They rebuilt the Valkyrie piece by frozen piece, salvaging from abandoned transports, rigging solar batteries, and tuning the old turbines. And through it all, Cale and Lyra grew closer. He taught her to shoot. She taught him to believe again. Beneath the ice, in fleeting moments, they found warmth. They made each other remember they were still human. Then Rahl tried to stop them. On the night of launch, he sent guards to sabotage the hangar. A standoff erupted. Shots were fired. Merc was hit, but not fatally. Cale confronted Rahl and said, You buried yourself in this tomb because it was easier than trying. We're not letting you bury us too." Lyra flew them out in a hail of wind and snow. The Valkyrie lifted like a phoenix through the storm, wings groaning, engines screaming against the cold. The old systems flickered and the AI core stuttered to life. Kale took the controls as they cleared the cloud barrier. And then sunlight. Real golden sunlight breaking through the white. Everyone on board gasped. Some wept. They flew for 6 hours, skimming just above the frozen wastes, dodging hurricane walls and broken satellite debris. Then the radar pinged, heat signatures, greenery, life. They found it. An old volcanic caldera that had become a geothermal oasis, hidden by cloud cover and terrain. Forests had returned in its bowl. Water ran freely. A perfect cradle of warmth. The earth wasn't dead, just sleeping. They landed. The soil was rich, air breathable, temperature stable. They planted their flag, and over the months that followed they sent signals back to Thorn Station and others like it. Some came, others never answered, but slowly a new colony formed. Not just survivors, builders, dreamers. Kale and Lyra stood at the edge of a new dawn. One night under the stars she told him, "This isn't the end, Kale, this is the beginning." He kissed her. The ice may have buried the world, but it hadn't killed the fire inside humanity. That fire burned brighter now, not just for warmth, but for each other. Frozen fury had nearly ended them, but in the cold they found something worth saving, and they called it Hearthlight, the place where hope lived again.